If you have your Bibles, go ahead and be turning to Matthew chapter 6. Matthew chapter 6, if you remember, Jesus is telling his disciples, a lot of people call this the Lord's Prayer, but it's actually Jesus teaching about prayer, giving a model prayer here. If you want to know Jesus' prayer, you can go to John 17. But I want us to read this before we get started tonight. It says that when you pray, you shall not be like the hypocrites, for they love to pray standing in the synagogues and on the corners of the streets, that they may be seen by men. Assuredly I say to you, they have their reward. But you, when you pray, go into your room, and when you have shut your door, pray to your Father who is in the secret place. And your Father who sees in secret will reward you openly. And when you pray, do not use vain repetitions as the heathens do, for they think that they will be heard for their many words. Therefore do not be like them, for your Father knows the things you have need before you ask Him. In this manner, therefore, pray. Our Father in heaven, hallowed be your name. Your kingdom come, your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. Do not lead us into temptation, but deliver us from the evil one. For yours is the kingdom and power and glory forever. Amen. Now here in Matthew 6, Jesus teaches His disciples, of course, how to pray by giving them this model prayer. Now in that prayer, Jesus helps us to see the kind of things that we should be praying for. What our prayer life should be like. And just some different things as far as help from God. Now when Jesus taught His disciples and us the example prayer here, He included the request which we ask for God to help us in our fight against sin. Now in Psalms 141, I think in many respects is an expanded and more detailed version of that final request about lead us not into temptation and deliver us from the evil one. I think that's what David is doing here. David is requesting from God. He's praying sincerely to God. He wants God to help him in some various things. Well, two things really, to help him with sin and help him with the sinner. And I think it's very interesting how he starts out this psalm, because he's looking more inward of the things that could happen to him, the things that he's tempted with, the things that he is struggling with, and he wants God to help him there first before he thinks about what's going on around him. It's almost like Jesus teaching in the Sermon on the Mount. You know, you can't help someone else. You can't get the speck out of their eye until you get the plank out of your eye, right? And I think that's what David here is doing. This psalm should give us words that we can use, and I think in our own prayer as we strive to put sin to death and to honor God. So what I want to do tonight is we read this psalm, and then as usual we'll go through and discuss it and kind of see the frame of mind and what David is actually teaching us. So Psalms 141 says, Lord, I cry out to you. Make haste to me. Give ear to my voice when I cry out to you. Let my prayer be set before you as incense, the lifting up of my hands as the evening sacrifice. Set a guard, O Lord, over my mouth. Keep watch over the door of my lips. Do not incline my heart to any evil thing, to practice wicked works with men who work iniquity. Do not let me eat of their delicacies. Let the righteous strike me. It shall be a kindness. And let him rebuke me. It shall be as excellent oil. Let my head not refuse it. For still my prayer is against the deeds of the wicked. Their judges are overthrown by the sides of the cliff, and they hear my words, for they are sweet. Our bones are scattered at the mouth of the grave, as when one plows and breaks up the earth. But my eyes are upon you, O God the Lord. In you I take refuge. Do not leave my soul destitute. Keep me from the snares they have laid for me, and from the trap of workers of iniquity. let the wicked fall into their own nets while I escape safely. So here we see David, he begins here with the urgency of the prayer that he's requesting. Now, I don't believe there's any way, or I couldn't, to determine exactly where David's at this time, what he's going through. Whatever trial he's facing, I believe it's urgent to him. And again, I don't think it really matters what he's going through. All prayers should be urgent to us, shouldn't it? Our going to God should be our first response. And it should be such with, one thing that I think about with Psalms is as we go through the Psalms here, I always try to compare what they knew during that time, what they thought of, what their point of view of, especially their relationship with God, and what ours is today. And one thing that strikes me is how personal their prayers are, especially David, and how close they feel like that they can talk to God and expect. That expectancy is something. David, when he prays to God, he expects, one, God to hear him, and two, he expects God to do something. And I think there's something to be said about that. And sometimes I think we kind of distance ourselves from that a little bit because, well, miracles have ceased. We don't have that kind of, God doesn't communicate in the way that he did then. And we can throw all these to it, but I can tell you those two things are still the same. We can expect God to hear us as children of his, and we should expect an answer from him. Or why pray? I mean, why pray if we don't? If we don't have that kind of relationship with God to where we can go to him as our Father and expect him to help us in that situation. Now, it's like going to a parent. As a child, we expect our parents to help us with the problem that we have, right? As we're young. And now, we may not like what they do, but what they do is going to help us through the situation we're in, even though we may not like how they do it. And I think God can operate like that, certainly. But I think that expectancy is something we should have. And David here had an urgency. He said in verse 1, he said, Lord, I cry out to you. Let me get my eyes on. Make haste to me. Give ear to my voice when I cry out to you. Let my prayer be set before you as incense, the lifting up of my hands as the evening sacrifice. He is saying here, he said, God, my prayer to you, let it be that sweet aroma. Let it be like the evening sacrifice, like when we make sacrifices to you and what that's like and the reason behind that and how you accept that and how we're to do that. Let my prayer be that. Let my prayer be that I come before you and do the things that you asked me to do, but also realize the situation am I in, because who else is he going to go to? Especially David in the position he's in. So one thing I get at the very beginning of this is the urgency of the prayer that David has and the confidence that he has that God is going to do something. And maybe you can ask yourself, like I asked myself when I was studying this, do I have that same kind of attitude? When I pray, do I truly expect God to do something? Or do I just pray because I'm supposed to pray as a Christian? I'm supposed to say my prayers in the morning. I'm supposed to say my prayers at night. I'm supposed to pray before you eat. I'm supposed to do this. But what do I expect out of it? Do I go to him with any problem that I have in my life? Do I go to him and say, this is what I'm going through, this is what I need? Of course, he knows what I need, but maybe he needs me to tell him so I can know what I need in him. And I think that's what David here is doing from the very beginning. Any thoughts on that part? Do you think we may have a problem today with expecting God to do something? Do you?
I do. I think we set our expectations low because we don't want to put God in a bad spot. So I don't want to ask something big because then I'm going to expect him to show out. So I'm just going to keep it,
Yeah.
I think we always say the right thing, which is, well, if you say in your will be done, then that fixes it all no matter what happens. But I think we probably sell God short sometimes.
Yeah.
Because we're afraid to get our hopes up.
You know, I don't think my issue is ever, I think it's too big for God. Mine is always, I think it's too little for God. Too little to bother him with, you know? and I don't expect it sometimes. I'm like, well, I feel silly taking this to God, that I'm feeling this way today, or I'm going through this today, or I'm, why not take it to him? I think that'd make a lot of us feel a lot better. I was seeing a commercial the other day. You could call up a therapist. I don't know what the cost is, but you can just call up and talk to them about this and about that. And I thought, that'd be a pretty good job. Just let somebody call you, let them pay you, and listen to what they going through and tell them, yeah, how's that make you feel? And just keep saying that over and over, and then just give them a little advice and let them go on, let them give you $100, It sounds like a pretty good gig to me. But as I was watching that, one thing that kept coming on my mind was if people would live like they should, and I'm talking about myself too, we ought to be talking to God about these things. I mean, that's who we need to be going to. That's who can help us. And believe me, I could really use to talk to God a whole lot more than I do, because, things I feel wouldn't make sense to somebody else. They're like, why do you think that? Or why do you feel that way? And I'm like, I don't know. I don't know why I think some of the things I think. I don't know why I feel some of the things I feel. I don't know why I go through some of the things that I go through that bother me, that doesn't bother somebody else, or that I have anxiety over that somebody else may not have anxiety over. And then when you have ever, it's almost like, I don't know if you've ever experienced anxiety or panic attacks or things like that, but trying to describe that to somebody is almost nearly impossible, because you can't really put your finger on it of why something like that's happening. And so who better to talk to about that, since God already knows what we need before we ask. He knows even if I can't put it into words, don't he? So I think I bring that back to like what David is going through here. He knows God is one thing that he can count on. God is one thing that he can look to and count on that's always on his side. You think of David's position, I don't know that there's anybody he can trust. I don't know that there's anybody he can confide in like he can with God. And I think he sees the urgency of it, and he sees the confidence in it. Let's move on a little bit. Look at verses 3 and 4. He says, set a guard, O Lord, over my mouth. Keep watch over the door of my lips. Do not incline my heart to any evil thing, to practice wicked works with men who work iniquity, and do not let me eat of their delicacies. So notice what David is doing here. While again, we don't know the specifics of his situation, I think it's clear that he felt the temptations of sin in the world. So he asked God for help. He says, set a guard over my mouth. Don't let me, and over the door of my lips. Don't let me say things that I shouldn't say. Don't let me go down that road. And it may be because of the trials he's going, he may get upset. Something may happen, and he's tempted to say something. He's tempted to blurt it out. He's tempted to show his anger through his words. And he's telling God, guard me over it. Set a guard over my lips. Don't let those things come out. So I think David here is, with all the things that he's facing, I think he's saying, don't let me be like they are to me. Because he's very tempted to be. You ever been tempted to be like somebody is to you? You ever been tempted to say what they're doing, say something about what they're doing and take it right back to them? Oh man, it's hard not to. And I think it was hard for David, because he says, here's what I need help first and foremost. Keep watch over the door of my lips. Zip it. Help keep me zipped, so I don't say the things, because he's realizing, okay, what's hard for me right now? He's taken his wrath, and we've talked about this before, he takes his wrath to God, so he don't take his wrath to someone else that he shouldn't and say the things that he shouldn't. And this is a problem that we see, all throughout Scripture. If you look in Proverbs 21 and verse 23, whoever guards his mouth and tongue keeps his soul from trouble. Proverbs 10 and verse 19, in the multitude of words sin is not lacking, but he who restrains his lips is wise. In a multitude of words sin is not lacking. So the more you say, the more opportunity and temptation there is to do what? Say the wrong thing, isn't there? Sometimes it just, have you ever said to yourself, I wished I'd just stopped here? You know, I have somebody say something to me one time. I was talking to them about something. They said, you just couldn't let it go, could you? You just couldn't let it go. If you'd stopped here, but you just can't let it go. And sometimes we can't. We just can't let it go. We have to get that last word in. We have to get our point of view across, even if it's harsh words or something like this. And David is saying, I don't want to do that. I don't want to be that person. Even though this is happening to me, I don't want to be the person that does this. So keep guard over my lips. And he says, do not incline my heart to any evil thing, to practice wicked works with men who work iniquity. Don't let me be tempted to get in on this. Don't let me be tempted to have this iniquity in my heart. Because what happens? How does sin start? Where does it start at? It starts in the heart. It starts with that desire. When we give in to that desire, we give in to that temptation, then it becomes action. And then when it becomes action, it becomes sin. And sin, when it's full grown, becomes what? Death. So you take care of it when it's here. That's what Jesus taught in the Sermon on the Mount. You know, you've heard it said that about love your neighbor and hate your enemy, and about adultery. He's saying if it happens in here, that's where it's going to happen. So David said, don't let any evil thing happen here. You know, he said, keep it out of my heart. Don't let me participate and practice wicked with men who work iniquity, and do not let me eat of their delicacies. Now, this could mean two things here. It could be like, don't let me sit down and eat the things that they're eating, or it could be, don't let me partake in the things in which they partake of. I don't know which way David means it here. I think it's more of a metaphor saying, don't let me participate in the things in which they're doing, but it could be because, you know, remember the captives, you got some said they wouldn't participate and eat the things that the kings eat, so they actually ended up better people because of it. That could be what David means here. But I think in the context and what he's talking about here is, don't let me become wicked with these wicked people. And sometimes that can be what happens to us as Christians with the trial that we're facing. You've got somebody who is maybe accusing you of something, or as they were David, or doing something to you or your family, or whatever it is. What do you want to do? You want to do the right thing, but you want to protect yourself, and you want to protect your family, or you want to protect your name, your reputation, whatever it is. But sometimes in doing that, we can have a tendency to be just like they are and do the same thing. Because, how is it John says it sometimes? We want our pound of flesh. And that's where we're at sometimes. David, I think, is at that point. You just think about all the trials that David faced as king with trying to escape Saul many times, the uprising of his own family, all of this that takes place. David could fall in the category of doing the exact same things, you know, right back. David struggled with sin. So he's admitting to God at the very beginning, I need help. I need help to control my mouth. I need help to control my actions. And it's you who can give that to me, so I don't participate in these things. And what a wonderful prayer. Isn't that what Jesus taught? Lead us not into temptation and keep us from the evil one. That's what David is asking God for here. He's asking God, don't let me do that. Don't let me be a part of that. And it's hard to... There's a difference in acting and reacting, isn't there? If I react to what somebody does to me, anytime I've done that, probably 99.9999% of the time I was wrong in doing it, because I just reacted to what was going on in the moment instead of acting on what had happened. Sometimes we just need to take a breath. We just need to think about it and think about what's the best to do in that situation. And sometimes the best thing to do is nothing to start with until we have time to think about it and talk to God about it. I know that would help me, and maybe that might help you too in those moments. Any thoughts on this? Notice also here, look what James 3 says about this. Even so the tongue is a little member and boasts great things. So how great a forest a little fire kindles, and the tongue is a fire, a world of iniquity. The tongue is so set among our members that it defiles the whole body, and sets on fire the course of nature, and is set on fire before hell. For every kind of beast and bird, of reptile and creature of the sea is tamed and has been tamed by mankind, but no man can tame the tongue. It's an unruly evil, full of deadly poison. With it we bless our God and Father, and with it we curse men who have been made in the similitude of God. Out of the same mouth proceeds blessings and curses. My brethren, these things ought not be so. So James even says here's the struggle. And can we, I didn't put it in there, I don't want to throw anything on you, Greg. Can we go back up to verse 3 and 4? I told you I'm a good way to break in here. It says, set a guard, O Lord, over my mouth. No, 3 and 4 of James, I'm sorry. There's something I wanted to read there. 3 and 4. You think about it. We'll move on. If it gets up there, we'll talk about it. But James begins to talk about who can do this, of how hard it is not to, for your mouth not to be an evil. And that's why he goes on and explains it this way. It's like a fire. Notice, he says, indeed, we put bits in horses' mouths that they may obey us, and we turn the whole body. Look also at ships also. They are so large and driven by fierce winds, they are turned by a very small rudder wherever the pilot desires. So as little as it is, it's, it drives the whole thing. So it's the most important, maybe devastating part of who we are because of the power that it has. When you think about all that, the damage that can be done with just words, it's just devastating, isn't it? Families can break up because of words. Friendships can be destroyed because of words. A lot of things can happen, and it could be because of misunderstandings of words. You may take the words that I say different than I'm actually meaning them myself, and that could cause things. So the mouth is a devastating thing. How do we get control of it? Maybe that should be the answer or the question. How do we control it? How do we control our tongue? How can we, let a guard be set over our lips? Is there any way to do it? I don't know. Other than going to God and saying, I need help and I need you to sew my lips shut. I think I would get through the day a lot better if my lips were sewed shut, I tell you, the best days I usually have is when I'm sick and can't talk. That I just feel bad in my throat and I just don't talk all day. I believe those are the best days. I don't get any disagreements. I don't, I may think it up here, but it don't come out here and it makes the day better. Somewhere in here there needs to be some kind of, hinge that keeps it from here to going out here. And I can't usually find that hinge, and that's what David is asking for here, I believe. And in verse 4, he said, Do not incline my heart to an evil thing, to practice wicked work with men who work iniquity, and do not eat of their delicacy. And we talked about that. So let's go on to verse 5. It says, Let the righteous strike me, it shall be a kindness. Let him rebuke me, it shall be an excellent oil. Let my head not refuse it. So when you think about the first part of it, and that's what I want to talk about here is the first part of 5. He says, Let the righteous strike me, it shall be a kindness. Let him rebuke me, it shall be his excellent oil. So when someone is correcting us, how do we take that? Do we take that as kindness? Do we take them as kindness when they do it? Do we look at it as them anointing me, putting fresh oil, refreshing me? Or are we offended by it?
Most of the time you're offended by what they have.
Yeah, last Sunday morning I did a lesson on what do you do when you're wrong. Well, one thing is get over somebody telling you that you're wrong. That's my biggest obstacle. I don't like somebody tell me that. I don't like to admit it, but I sure don't like somebody to tell me that.
I forgot the verse when you asked that question. Controlling the tongue, the Bible says, be swift to hear, slow to speak.
Slow to speak, yeah.
Slow to anger. That's how you control the tongue.
Yeah.
Think about what's being talked about before you, like me, put in your 2 cents.
Yeah. And I think that's a good point, Mike, because I think usually when I get, and I think it goes along with this part, is where my mouth can get me in trouble is when I only hear part of what someone says, or I get in my mind what I think they're saying anyway, and I just stop them and I just go back to them. Like my wife tells me, you're not listening, you're just reloading, is what she tells me all the time, you know. Yeah, I'm just waiting for them to finish so I can, you know. And sometimes I like them talking longer. It gives me a little longer to think about what I'm going to say back to them, you know. I'm not listening to what they say. I'm just going on in my mind, here's how I'm going to get you this time, or here's what I'm going to say this time, you know. And maybe if we do the more listening, as we should, that can control, maybe we might think, well, maybe they didn't mean it like that, or maybe they're coming at it as a good, it's hard. It's hard, I think, both ways. It's hard to give criticism, and it's hard to take criticism. It's hard to give it because you don't know how the other person's going to take it, and you don't know quite how to say it, or maybe in receiving it, you don't know how to receive it because you're not taking it the way the person means it. And David here, I think that's what he's saying. Okay, God, I need you to help me with how I talk. Help me keep my mouth shut. Help keep things out of my heart so I don't participate in these things. And I need to be able to take people telling me this, let the righteous strike me, and let me take it as kindness. Let me take it as them anointing my head with oil and me accepting that. Because it may be what I need to hear for my benefit. There's things we don't want to hear. There's things that we don't want to hear from God. You know, we need to take God. Do you think God is being kind to us when He tells us that we need to do this, or this different, or that we're doing it wrong? Is He being kind, or is He being mean? I think He's being kind. He wants to save us, doesn't He? So He's being kind, and I think that's what David is saying. Let me take it in such a way in which I'll be able to, that it'll be able to help me. In James 5, beginning at verse 19, Brethren, if anyone among you wanders from the truth, someone turns him back, let him know that he who turns a sinner from the error of his way will save a soul from death and cover a multitude of sins. So here I should be able to receive that because God commands us to do it, doesn't He? So if God commands someone to do it, I need to understand as a necessary inference, as we call that, as the other part of that. Just like elders oversee the flock that's among you, they can't do that if the flock won't let them, right? So the flip side of that is, here's what they're supposed to do, so in reference to that, here's what we're supposed to do. And I think the same thing here is, if a person's obligation is, if they see me wandering away, to snatch me back, then I have an obligation on the other side of that to receive that in the manner in which it's supposed to be done, shouldn't I? And I think sometimes we don't look at it in that way. In Hebrews chapter 3, beginning at verse 12, Beware, brethren, lest there be any of you an evil heart of unbelief and departing from the living God. But exhort one another daily while it's called today, lest any of you be hardened through the deceitfulness of sin. That's the goal. I don't want to get to the point where sin hardens my heart and sears my conscience to where I don't turn back. So I would want somebody to get me before I get to that point. But if my attitude is such to where I won't receive that, then maybe I'm actually hurting them too, because they're trying to help me and they're not fulfilling what they're supposed to be doing. And that's a hard thing, I think, to get about. But there needs to be some accountability. In Proverbs 29:1, he who is often rebuked and hardens his neck will suddenly be destroyed, and that without remedy. So if I'm rebuked and I continue to harden my neck, I can be destroyed without remedy. If I'm not going to accept it, then Isn't that what happened when Jesus came? The religious leaders at that time, they didn't want to accept it. They hardened them. What do you call them? Stiff necks? Whitewashed tombs? You know, you look at these words in which Jesus used to them, then they've got to be able to accept it. You know, we've got to be able to receive how do you think those on Pentecost felt when Peter convicted them of crucifying the Son of God? It says they were cut to their heart, right? But how they were cut to their heart is different than the ones who were cut to their heart when Stephen was confronting them. They stoned him. Those that Peter did, they obeyed. So how do we let it cut our heart? Do we cut it to where we're going to gnash our teeth and throw stones and kill? I've gnashed my teeth a little bit when somebody just confronts me with something. You know, it takes me a little while. I have to think about it. I have to mull it over. I have to sulk on it a little while and soul up. And then I realize, yeah, I guess they were right on that. But, you know, it takes a process to get to. But I should be able to say, you know, this person has always had my best interest in mind. I'm going to receive it as they're giving it, because it is a responsibility. In Proverbs 9, verses 7 and 8, he who corrects a scoffer gets shame for himself, and he who rebukes a wicked man only harms himself. Do not correct a scoffer lest he hate you. Rebuke a wise man, and he will love you. So which am I? If I take rebuke in the wrong way, am I the wicked person? Or if I take it in the right way, am I the wise person? You know, again, there's a responsibility on both sides. So David here, before he gets into the problems that he's having, he's telling God, here's the problems I'm having to start with myself, before I even get into what somebody else is doing to me. I need help with this to make sure I'm right, to make sure I'm doing the right things. So let's look at 5 through 7 again. It says, let the righteous strike me, it shall be kindness, and let him rebuke me, it shall be as excellent oil. Let my head not refuse it. Now he changes in the second part of the verse here in 5. He says, for still my prayer is against the deeds of the wicked. Their judges are overthrown by the sides of the cliff, and they hear my words, for they are sweet. Our bones are scattered at the mouth of the grave, as when one plows and breaks up the earth. These verses here kind of tickled me, because as I read them, I was like, I don't know if I exactly know what he's talking about here. So I started going through some commentaries and things, and I got through 5, and every one of them said the same thing. We have no idea what this is saying here. Here's different versions for you to try to figure it out. The best I can get out of it is this. David is talking about how where's the last part of the verse? For still my prayers against the deeds of the wicked. Now he gets in and talks about the problems that's coming to him. And I think he talks about if he stays true, that God's judgment is going to come on those who are against him. And I think that's where he's talking about from verse 6, is what I can get out of it anyway. Their judges are overthrown by the sides of the cliff. They hear my words, for they are sweet. Our bones are scattered at the mouth of the grave, as when one plows and breaks up the earth. And then he's going to go on and say, but keep me in safety, because if I'm doing the right thing. Now you may see something else, and I'm very open to discussing it. But it looks like David is saying, okay, now here's what the wicked is doing. My words are true or sweet or the truth to them. And here's what's going to happen to them if they don't stay true to it. They're going to be cast off. Anybody got any other thoughts on that? That's really all I have on these few verses. Is that what you think, Jerry? Sound good to you? That sounds good. Let's move on. How about that? Look at verses 8 through 10. It says, but my eyes are upon you. So as he talks about how the wicked is doing to him and what their judgment's going to be, he says, but my eyes are upon you, O God the Lord. In you I take refuge. Do not leave my soul destitute. Keep me from the snares they have laid from me, and from the traps of the workers of iniquity. Let the wicked fall into their own nets, while I escape safely. So he says, God, help me to be what
I should be. And I need your help. I can't do it myself. I can't control my mouth myself. I want to protect my heart. I can't do that myself. That's what I need from you. But also help me to receive the rebuke from someone if I don't, that's trying to help me. Help me receive that as I should. And that can help me in my walk with you, because here's what's going on. Here's what the wicked is trying to do. So I've got this coming against me, and I'm never going to be able to overcome that if I can't overcome myself to begin with. And he says, I need help with both. I need help with me, and I need help with what's coming outside. Let me safely escape. And that's what we all want, isn't it? Let me escape this world. Let me safely escape with all its trouble, with all its trials, with all its heartaches, with everything that's happening here. Let me keep myself like I should to be able to overcome the wicked so I can escape this place. And can you think of anything else that we're trying to do than that? I mean, look around us. It's almost like the world is collapsing around us at times. But we're still here. How do I navigate through that? I can go crazy. I can get in my mind and go crazy. I can go crazy physically and just lash out at people. I can do a lot of things with what's going on in the world. Or I can walk on the path that Jesus set through, that He clears it out. Even though there's obstacles, He says, you can overcome those. Because I did. The victory's mine. That's what we got to look. I think that's what's walking by faith, not by sight, is all about. Don't look at what's in front of you. Look at where you're going. Jesus said, I've already been what's in front of you, and I won. The victory's mine. Just come. Come unto me, all ye that labor and heavy laden, and I'll give you rest. You can get through the obstacles to get to the end, because Jesus did and says that we can. I can do all things through Christ that strengthens me. And I think that's really what David is getting to here when he is praying to God. Any final thoughts on this?
This goes back to what you talked about restraining our tongue, asking God to help us. I always think about 1 Corinthians, I think it is, that talks about the natural man versus the spiritual man. And that, it helps me to remember when somebody criticizes us or when we want to lash out, that's the natural thing to do. And I don't mean that as, sometimes we say, oh, that's natural, that's good. I'm saying that's what I'm always going to initially do. Like, if left to myself without the influence of God, that's what everybody does. That's the way that normal people are. And I think if we're not careful, we start to think we're above that, especially if we go to church, if we're a good person, a Christian. You know, there's been times in my life where I've gone without criticism, or people haven't, and all of a sudden something hits me out of the blue, and me, who I just thought, well, I'm a good person, I turn into an animal. You know, I'm just so angry. And I think if we don't put it in that context, that's what our natural inclination is. We will give God the glory and we'll say, hey, it's only by God's grace and by God's teaching that I was ever able to overcome that. Because I really don't think it's within us to get over that. I don't think we can get over it ourselves. Because that's just the natural thing that we're going to do.
Yeah. I think has been my motto a long time. I don't get over it, I just get through it. You know, and it's sad when it's like that sometimes. I tell you one thing I get out of Psalms here, it makes me really see that I think Paul read Psalms a lot. You look at a lot of Paul's writings about the struggle with the flesh and carnality and with the Spirit and God's grace and God's mercy, and you see how he goes through that whole process a lot, and you're seeing that a lot in Psalms. And a lot of teaching from Jesus. So Psalms was a big part of New Testament Christianity, I believe. I mean, all of them were, but you can really see a lot of... I was at a gospel meeting this week, and I was listening to the preacher, and he was talking about grace and some other things, and verses that kept popping in my mind were Psalms. Well, Psalms teaches that too. Psalms teaches that. You know, there's just so much that I think hinges on a lot of, I think, what got through the early Christians, got them through a lot of their trials and things, is the Psalms and what they meant to them. Any other final thoughts? Okay. I believe we have Psalms 143 and 150 left. You know what 150 is, don't you? Know which one that is, Jimmy? The last psalm. The last one.